Okoniwa, we are one, we are Cowsol, Cowsol, and we stand by our husbands. We are the mothers of the land. We will build.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, First Lady, and thank you yet again for inviting me to this program. Thank you for the award you gave me last year. I'm really grateful. It's very, very inspiring to be back again. Thank you very, very much. I'm going to talk a little bit about 5 essential things that has helped me to build the House of Tara brand in Lagos State and by extension, Nigeria. It was in Lagos State I discovered my gift. It was in Lagos State I got my first 100 customers as brides. And so I consider Lagos State as the birthplace of House of Tara. But it's not just for House of Tara, for the entire makeup industry in Nigeria. How many people in this room know that in every family there must be at least one makeup artist? Correct. And that is because out of Lagos State, makeup artists have emerged and influenced other states across Nigeria. Today, we have students for our makeup school who come all the way from Namibia, come all the way from Botswana. Somebody came by road for 4 days from Gabon to attend makeup school in Lagos. You're supposed to clap. And the reason why is because Africa has begun to notice that Nigeria is the birthplace of the makeup industry and setting the trends for makeup in the whole of Africa. So the question I'd like to ask is, when you're considering building a brand, what are some of the key things you must think about? One of them is, what is the product or the service I want to offer? And for me, the service I wanted to offer, it was clear to me. It was makeup for brides who are getting married. But I grew from not just makeup for brides who are getting married, but for also, I created a product line because my brides were asking me to produce a product for them that they can also use. So you must, in creating your brand, ask yourself, what is the product I want to create and who is this product for? That's what you call your target audience. It's not everyone that's interested in makeup. And at a time, there were some brides who would say to you, because of the church I go to, I cannot use makeup. So there's no point in going to market to those people because they were not my target audience. So you have to consider, who is my target audience? My target audience at that time were young ladies who were getting married. So I focused on graduating students from out of University of Lagos. I could identify easily people who were getting married the next year, who were already engaged, and I focused on marketing my business to them. The second thing was, what is my value proposition? What is the value I want to bring to a bride? Many brides are getting married, their auntie is the one that does their makeup back in the days. And they just draw one eye pencil, put one red lipstick. I'm sure there are some of you that were victims to that kind of situation. Today, makeup artists go into a bride's house and allow the bride to not bother about what they are going to, how they are going to look, and be dependent on a makeup artist to transform them. Are makeup artists transforming people today? Are they transforming people today? Can we give the makeup industry a round of applause? The other thing I thought about was, what is the revenue stream for this business? That is, where will money come from? The minute I'm doing makeup for a bride, they pay me, money comes. The next thing, the bride says, the powder you use for me, I would like to buy it. The pencil you use for me, I would like to buy it. The lipstick you use for me, I would like to buy it. What did that say to me? This was another opportunity to create another product that will bring in income. And that's how we created our first product line called Orekelewa. How many people remember it? So from creating a product, from creating first of all a service, I then created a product. What is the other thing? I thought to myself, if I'm creating a product, I think about the value that I'm adding. I think about opportunities for creating revenue, but I must almost also think about availability and distribution. How will people know about my product and how will they get it?
Our next parade of creatives is Mrs. Mona Lisa Bimbola A. Aze.
I'm a lawyer by training, but I'm a shoemaker by revelation. I started making shoes because I couldn't find my size in the kind of shoes that I like. I would find my size in very ugly shoes, and then I would say I don't like them, and the young men in Balogun would look at me as if, you know, like, after all the wahala we did, we finally found your size, and then you are showing off that you don't like the shoes. And then I noticed that people around me in Lagos were wearing leather shoes. I noticed that the men, drivers, your clerk in the office, they were all wearing real leather. And I said, there must be something about this. And they said to me, oh, there's a market in Mushi where this leather is sold. And I said, okay. So all I need is a good shoemaker to make shoes for me. I wasn't concerned about all the lovely ladies in this hall. I was just thinking about myself. And I just wanted to be comfortable and look elegant. Have you seen my shoes? Thank you. And so I started looking and I started working with shoemakers, and this was 15 years ago. Has it been easy? Not exactly. But have I enjoyed it? Yes, I have, and I will do it all over again. Now, one of the things that has helped me all this while is the fact that the way we make our shoes, we have a lot of interaction and feedback from our customers. If you're in business and people say to you, there's something wrong with what you have just done, the tendency is to feel upset. But I have learned that feedback is very good. It's one of the best things you can have as an entrepreneur. And I have the advantage of feedback because I work directly with my customers. I listen to them. This morning, just before I came up, my friend showed me her shoes. She said to me, I like the underneath of my shoes to be a little bit rough, to have like a crepe, so that when I'm walking on marble floors, it's not slippery. So I picked up one of our shoes and I showed her. I said, this kind of thing? She said, yes. Then she said to me again, I like the floor of my shoes to be soft and cushioned, because that way I can wear them all day and I'm comfortable. And then we picked up another one of our shoes and we felt it and we realized that it was soft and it was cushioned, you know. So I said to her, I thought about it as I was coming up, that I've really enjoyed getting feedback from my customers. So it may not sound nice when it's happening, but when you take it and you work on it and you put it into your product, it actually lifts your work up. And a lot of what has happened to us in Mona Matthews is because we get feedback from the customers and we put it back into the product. Another thing that's helped me is focus on my target market. Like Mrs. Durotoye just said, when I first started, I thought of brides. I thought, oh, who would want elegant shoes and bags? I said, oh, brides. But a few months, no, maybe about a year afterwards, I realized that I had a better market in the mother of the bride than in the bride herself. Another thing that came to my attention was that Nigerian women, a lot of us, we have very nice curvy shapes, yeah, and our curviness extends to our feet. We started to work like that, making products to suit the woman.
The next person that's going to talk to us now, her name is Miriam Amin.
Lecture delivered by Dr. Hamin Olaiwala Taiwo, speaker at the 2017 conference of the Committee of Wives of Lagos State Officials, presented by Ms. Amin Aditola Miriam. She creates, she transforms. Women creative and entrepreneurial skill and innovative business in Nigeria. We could all imagine what difficulties our women folks would face if she does not create, she does not transform. Hence, my observation that the theme of this lecture is comely. There is this popular saying that a woman is the bedrock of any successful home. Thus, build and support a woman and you have built a nation. For behind every successful man, there is a woman. For the purpose of this paper, adequate care will be taken to explain the basic characteristics of what is ordinarily required for her to create and transform. But please permit me a short story as it relates to our organization, Olaya Food Canteen, Lagos. Like every organization, they become an oak tree. Olaya Foods Surulere took off on July 1st, 1996, on a modest beginning as an African-Nigerian food-based restaurant with determination to make a difference in a trade that is hitherto regarded as a trade of the illiterate and averages. It was founded by late Alaja Chief Mrs. Amin Oluwatoyin Kudrat of blessed memory. May her soul rest in peace. But today, even after her demise, the organization is a distant leader in the food industry, waxing stronger and expanding frontiers. The secret is not far-fetched. It is built on a vision and mission to excel, coupled with zeal of determination, perseverance, and innovation. It is in this area that we have overcome the tutelage challenges and moved ahead in the last 21 years to become a success story. It is important to let you know that there is no organization that is successful without its own story of challenges and downturns, nay, in a developing nation like ours.
Well, we are moving forward. And the next creative person that we have is no other than Bilikis Adebiyi Abiola.
It is a great honor and privilege to be speaking to this eminent group of women. Whenever I am asked how WeCyclers started, I jokingly tell people that I fell and I hit my head. Of course, that's not accurate, but to me, it communicates the frame of mind one would have to be in to embark on such an endeavor. While studying at the MIT Sloan School of Management, I started learning about people living at the base of the pyramid. People earning less than $2 a day. That's about 800 naira a day. In the world, there are about 2 billion people. So that's 2 billion out of the 7 billion people that are here in the world live on less than $2 a day. And a lot of them live in countries like Nigeria. I'm very passionate about Nigeria, and that stubborn Nigerian pride in me told me to look into this and make sure people were not just trying to make us look bad. How could Nigeria have a 70% poverty rate? After all, we are the giant of Africa. Once I started digging, I knew there was some truth to it. In a way, I'm fortunate because I started this journey while at MIT. The environment makes it really easy to get sucked into endeavors like this. MIT has loads of competitions, dinners, events, and resources to support startups. I remember December 2011 when we were preparing to go to Lagos to test our idea. I spent 3 weeks of my holiday with the team from morning to night, just preparing. I have to thank my wonderful daughters who carried on with life cheerfully and didn't make me feel too guilty. I'm not sure when exactly I committed myself to WeCyclers. It was probably in January 2012 in Lagos when we were carrying out some research on our concept. As part of the research, we organized what we called a Recycling Awareness Day. All people had to do was bring recyclable waste to our event, and we would give them an opportunity to win prizes. So when I say recyclable waste, I mean plastics, metals, and paper. People walking by heard what we were doing, turned around, picked some trash off the street, and came right back. As a naive person that had lived in the US for over 13 years, I was shocked. Did Lagos really have that much waste lying around? At this point, I have to appreciate the Lagos Waste Management Authority, LOMA, because they were very supportive to WeCyclers. They saw us as students, they listened to us, and they gave us every support
in order to allow us to start our concept. And so we started. We started with just one bicycle. So we had a welder go get a bicycle from the market, add something in the back that we could use to carry our waste, and then we would go to people's houses and we'll say, look, Mama, Ejo, eba washa plastic, eba washa can, eba washa paper. We'll come once a week, we will scale it, and then you will get points. And every 3 months, you can exchange your points for gifts. You can get money, you can get a bucket, you can get television, you can get generator. And so people that didn't even know what recycling was, they understood that, if I pack my idotidowo, if I pack my waste, I can get something. And one thing that really resonated with them was that after they had been packing the waste, they started to see how their communities were getting cleaner. They will see that the gutter is moving. There is no more malaria. Everywhere is nice. And they said, you know what, even though I'm getting gifts, I want to do this because I want to make my environment clean. Thank you. And so even though I wasn't making as much money as my classmates, I was very fulfilled in my job. Whenever I looked at the trash we were able to collect, I would just shake my head and wonder what would happen if we were not operating. Thankfully, as we grow, those mountains of trash we collect have grown. And we are very proud to be called Kole Kole, because we pack this waste, and the waste is really wealth. Because the waste is converted into different items. It can be turned into clothes, into shoes, into chairs, and many of those things happen here in Nigeria. According to Loma, Lagos generates about 14,000 tons of waste every single day. That's 14,000 cars every day in terms of weight that we generate in Lagos. And a lot of that waste, if we key into it and really work on it, can create jobs, it can create wealth. But what we do is we export that waste to countries like China. We will collect the plastic, we will crush it, put it on a container, and it goes to China. In China, they will turn it into clothes and they will send it back to us. We are not capturing value for that waste. So in Nigeria, we have to capture that value.
My name is Nike Odukomaya. My question goes to the recyclers lady. I'm so sorry, I can't remember your name. Okay, my first contact with recyclers was on TVC. I listened to, I think maybe one of your partners, and it was a very, very insightful, I got very insightful information from it. And I started setting my, separating my waste. But the problem I had was the collection. It was so frustrating getting through to the number that I saw on TV. So after my first attempt, I threw my waste away and I wasn't interested because I was really so bothered by what the lady said, that in some years to come we'll have so many plastics in the sea than fish. So it got me thinking and I started separating my waste, but I got frustrated when I cleared the waste and there wasn't anybody to come and pack them. But recently I got someone who is into this thing, and thankfully I was able to locate your office. So that's one thing you should look into, as to how to spread your contact numbers and make it easy for people, because that's the only way this initiative can go far. Thank you.
My name is Shade Onojobi. And while Mrs. Debayo Abiola was speaking, she said that recyclable waste were being packaged in a container, being sent to China for recycling. I'm just wondering, isn't it possible for us to do what they're doing in China here in Nigeria? If we have people, women go to China to train and get whatever it is, the machineries and the wherewithal with which we can recycle those things there, I'm sure it will make a lot of difference. Thank you.
My name is Toy Anju Sademuyiwa. I'm the Director for Creativity and Innovation in Lagos State. I just want to make a comment that is quite commendable that we have this caliber of women in different areas talking about their added value and also how they started, their implementation plan, customer focus, and continuous creativity and innovation. My question is, in Nigeria, when young entrepreneurs want to start a business, what they tend to do is they tend to have a mentality of one size fits all. So I need you to explain to us how it is, or what would it take for young entrepreneurs to differentiate themselves from each other? Because what works for one entrepreneur does not necessarily work for the other. Number one. Number two, the shoe designer talked about customer focus in terms of ensuring that they listen to their customers, in terms of their needs, their perception of the brand. In my office, we get innovations all the time, at least prospective innovations all the time. And what we find disconcerting is that we have young entrepreneurs that do not think about what the customer's perception should be in order to continue their brand. So if you could speak to that, we'll appreciate it. Thank you.
The first question was about collection. I just wanted to say thank you for that feedback. And we apologize for the difficulties that you had. There were a lot of people that have heard about recycling and wanted to be a part of it. But to be honest, we just didn't have the capacity to collect from everyone. So we basically focused on certain parts of Lagos. So Lagos Island, Surulere, Ebute Metta, and now we are now in Ikeja and Isolo area. But there are more people, like you said, that are going into this space. And with the new CLI initiative, there's going to be even more happening in terms of collection. So please don't give up, because like you said, if care is not taken, by 2050, there's going to be more plastic than fish in the ocean. The second thing was, how can Nigeria be able to recycle waste locally instead of exporting to China? Just in terms of, I'll just give you a simple case study. These plastic bottles, right? We currently cannot recycle them locally in Nigeria. So what happens is that people collect them, they crush it, they wash, and they put it in containers and take it to China and other places like that. Over there, because what happens is that you need to have very large factories that can take that waste and turn it into the next stage, which is pelletizing, and eventually, like I said, clothing or even new bottles. So I think there is going to be a lot of opportunity for Nigeria to tap into this. And it even may be out of necessity, because China is reducing their collection of waste from other countries. So people like Nigeria, we all now have to see, how are we going to deal with our waste? And waste cannot go away. You can't just put it somewhere and forget about it. It's not going anywhere. So we have to do something about it. And I think with the CLI and with other people looking at the waste sector, there's going to be a lot of investments in large-scale factories that can turn that waste into end products. And then somebody asked, is there a way for them to become a part of the WeCyclers team? There is. You can go on our website, www.wecyclers.com. You can be a volunteer, help us to organize a cleanup in your neighborhood, and just reach out to us. Thank you very much.
The first question the lady, somebody asked was, how can young entrepreneurs differentiate their businesses? And my response to that is, number one, anyone who's going to a business, like I said earlier on, I think I talked about focusing on a target market. So for example, you can be a makeup artist and you focus only on the upper class. That means you do makeup for only the daughters of the very rich. Or you can decide to focus on the middle class, or you can decide to focus on the people who are not as rich. So that will determine the pricing of your product. She also asked the question, in my journey, if I'm training so many people, how am I able to ensure that my business can continue to thrive? Like I said, being a makeup artist or having a group of makeup artists in my business is not the only business that I do. That is just one of my businesses. But if I wanted to address that issue, I would say one of our core values in House of Tara is superior customer service. And that is a reflection of me as a person. So if I walk into a bank and I have to greet you as the teller, you can be sure I will report. I am very particular about how I am treated, how I am responded to when I go into a place. It's the same thing for House of Tara. We're very big on our greeting. When you walk into a House of Tara store, they will start with a smile on their face and a ring in your voice. You say, welcome to House of Tara. If you've ever visited any House of Tara stores, that is how we greet. we have a robust customer service team that goes through our retail system to check on customers who visited our stores. Personal calls are made. Hi, Mrs. Kemi, you came to our store in Enugu 2 weeks ago and you bought a lipstick. How did you find our service? Oh, I was very happy. Oh, I was not happy. I'm very active on social media. I post every single day on Instagram, so people know that I can be reached. DMs come to me if anything goes wrong in a store, and we respond with the speed of lightning. That is one of the ways we differentiate ourselves, our customer relationship. We are not just creating makeup for the sake of makeup. Like I said, I started as a makeup artist. What that meant was I was dealing with my customers one-on-one. So I knew the gaps that we had in terms of product. You walk into a store and you buy a makeup product in a mall in the US. The store has dimmed lights. The makeup artist sells the powder to you. You come back to Nigeria and it's not your shade. How is House of Tara different? Like I said, we have retail stores. The reason why we created those retail stores is because we wanted to be able to attend to our customers one-on-one. It means that in 2 weeks, if you are not happy, you can come back. It also means that if you walk into a House of Tara stores, the stores are lit in a way that you can see your natural skin color. We are not just trying to sell for the sake of selling. You cannot buy our products in a place where somebody is not there to attend to you. Even when you walk into a MedPlus, there's a merchandiser there to attend to you because we want to deal with our customers one-on-one. That is one way we differentiate ourselves as a brand. There was a question about removing makeup from the face. Please, let me start by calling all the women that use makeup. Please don't go to bed with your makeup on. You will have nightmares. So if you are wondering why you're having nightmares, because you're keeping makeup on your face overnight. But simple things. Coconut oil. So for example, House of Tara has a makeup remover that is coconut essence. We don't use chemical to remove makeup. We don't. Baby wipes. If you cannot buy the House of Tara makeup remover with coconut oil, please get Huggies. All of us here are mothers. Huggies is good for the baby bum. Can it be worse for the face of the woman? Can it be worse for the face of a woman? Thank you very much.
One of the first questions was, how did I sort of like make the transition from being a lawyer to being a shoemaker? I didn't get any training because there wasn't any training available when I started for shoemaking. But one of the first things I did was I went for an entrepreneurial training. And I would like to recommend that to people who want to start business. The reason is because by the time I started 15 years ago, I was already like 17 years as a lawyer. And I was very amazed as how limited the education I had as a lawyer was for me as an entrepreneur. They're two totally different things. Being trained as a lawyer in Nigeria is different from being trained as an entrepreneur. So I would like to recommend to ladies in the hall that if you want to go into business, try and get a business training. I was fortunate to be able to go to Faith Foundation, is at Ijora in Lagos State Water Corporation House, and then I went to the Lagos Business School. I have a certificate in entrepreneurial management from the Lagos Business School. But there are other business schools around that we can go to. Now, how did I learn my business, the skills that I was able to put into shoemaking? Even though I didn't learn shoemaking, I had, by that time, I think I was about 39, I had 39 years experience in wearing shoes. And I knew what I liked and what I didn't like. I knew where the shoe was pinching me, and I knew what to look out for. So what I simply did was, I found shoemakers who had some training that were willing to learn from me what I could put into them. In other words, you are a shoemaker, but you are a man. You don't know what it feels like to wear 6 inches heels for 6 hours. You don't know what it feels like to tie a wrapper, wear a gele, keep your makeup on, your jewelry properly set, and smile. I know that I'm a woman. So I collaborate with my shoemakers and we create things that make life easier for women. So my training was on the job. I was not ashamed to learn from my shoemakers. I asked questions. I went to the market. I sat down. I had friends in the leather market. I would sit down with them. I would tell them, Sonny, you're going to buy me food today. I would eat rice in Mushi with the people selling leather. They were my friends, so that I would understand the trade. And I learned a lot of things from them like that. My shoemakers, I would say to them, this heel is not straight. I don't know why it's not straight. If one shoemaker brings his own work and it's not nice, I will ask another shoemaker, what's wrong with this shoe? And they will tell me. And that's how I learned. That's how I built myself up. Fortunately, also, the internet became more affordable for us in Nigeria. So I started going online, reading as much as I could, joining focus groups. If you go online, there are focus groups for almost every profession you can think about. I mean, you can learn quite a lot on YouTube, for instance. You know, so I would go on YouTube, I would study whatever it was that I can find. And it's a continuous process for me. I'm still learning today. I'm still going online, checking on things. So that's how I learn.
A few keywords I just want us to think about. You know, first is, you know, capacity building. And I'd like you to think about capacity in terms of a vessel. So a bottle or a glass or a bucket, anything like that that can take in some kind of quantities, either liquid or solid content. And capacity is the maximum amount that something can contain. Is the amount that something can produce. And the ability or power to do or understand something. And although the topic is capacity building for micro, small, and medium enterprises, I like us to think about it in a broader sense, because we are all enterprises as individuals in our families, and one way or the other, you are an enterprise. So if you're a working mom, you are an enterprise. If you are a stay-at-home mom, you are an even bigger enterprise. So capacity in that regard should help us think about how do we increase what an individual contains? How do we increase what an individual can produce? And your theme is she creates, she transforms. How do you improve, increase what you can create? Capacity is also about increasing the ability to do something. And you heard from the shoemaker that she kept researching. She started with some ugly shoes, and she was going in to discuss with shoemakers and learn more to increase her ability to make shoes. That's capacity. So there are three things connected with capacity that I want to share. First is what you know. What do you know? Second is what can you produce with the resources available to you. And thank God we've learned more about waste. I confess that I don't do any recycling. Everything goes into one bin, my house. But we'll learn and see how we can recycle. The third thing is what you or your business, and remember we're talking about business in a broader sense, us as enterprises. So whether you are directly in business or indirectly, it's applicable to you. And that leads us to three things with the acronym KPA: knowledge, productivity, and activity. Your KPA: knowledge, productivity, and activity. Knowledge. When you stop to acquire knowledge, it's like you have a disease. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm inspired by a story I read recently of an 83-year-old grandma who went to complete her PhD. Somewhere along the line, she fell sick. She couldn't do it again, and then she recovered from the sickness and still went to complete the PhD, 83 years old. And I know in our own environment, if you are 83 and you suggest you want to go and do a PhD, you say, mama, is it now? You didn't do it since. But it's about knowledge, learning. Do we read books? Are you reading to learn more about whatever it is you're doing? I found out that Bill Gates, who's one of the world's richest men, or the richest, reads 50 books in a year. 50 books. That's an average of 1 book a month. But some people even do better. How many are we reading? Or do we close after we finish school? We have to read to acquire knowledge. You can also get some mentoring. So you have here today, some great mentors. So you want to learn how to make shoes, you go and look for Mona Lisa or Mona Matthews, and then you go enter the market, discuss with shoemakers, and get some mentoring. You can learn by shadowing. You can increase your knowledge by shadowing. That's just watching people, seeing how they do things, asking a few questions, and finding out how they do what they do and how you can improve what you do. You can also learn from experience, your personal experience, and there's so many narratives from the last session that tell us that indeed you can learn from experience. Both Mona Matthews and the waste recycling lady, all of them, they had stories about how they learned from experience. So we also have to learn from experience. So that's the K, the knowledge. So the P of the KPA is productivity. And that's really about what you deliver with the resources that are available to you. What are the resources? Your time. Think about Mona Matthews. So she has to combine, she says she's something like a superwoman. She's combining so many things into her time. And many of us make one big excuse, which is not often as valid as we think it is. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And if you break your 24 hours and analyze it properly, you might find that social media, 4 hours, gist, 2 hours. When you classify all those things in terms of importance, you might just find that your day is filled with a lot of low priority items. Your money, managing your money. producing more from the little that you have. And I have to go back to the older days. My mom had 6 of us, and so she had to deal with 5 boys. And my dad said he was tired at 3, but my mom continued. You know, it's the women that control this thing. Any number of babies the woman wants to have, that's what she will have. And then she eventually had a girl with the 6th attempt. So you're having to deal with 5 boys and 1 girl who is really more like a boy now, because she too is dealing with 5 boys. And managing whatever it is you have, squeezing every possible thing out of 1 naira. And mothers of those days, they knew how to manage. So a pot of soup will go a long way. You know, they will serve it in such a way that the boys will be satisfied, but the soup will not finish. Your relationship.
I'd like to also announce that the wallet we've been looking for has been found. Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you very much. Another round of applause for Mrs. Oladimiji, please. The topic for this plenary session is capacity building for SMEs. And our speaker is a certified master of the Leadership Challenge, an organizational influencer, a coach, and a trainer. Please welcome ORIYOMI Jemide. A round of applause, please, for him. ORIYOMI Jemide, please. Distinguished delegates, and I'll hand over to the chairman of the session.
Good morning, beautiful ladies. Good morning, beautiful ladies. Please permit me, Your Excellency, Mrs. Bolanle Ambode, to stand on all the already established protocols. I want to welcome all of us once again to this conference. It's been a very, very educative conference. And I want us to give a round of applause to the planning committee of Cowsol. They have done very, very well from the opening of yesterday morning till today. Even some things that were not taken care of yesterday had been taken care of this morning. So thank you so much, everyone. And I believe we are getting the best. From yesterday's topic, it's been progressive till this morning. Before I introduce our facilitator to us, the topic we want to consider now is capacity building for MSMEs. And if you ask me what is MSMEs, micro, small, and medium enterprises, that's what we want to look at. And before us, we have Mr. ORIYOMI Jemide, who is the Chief Client Officer at Sacros Associates. For those of us who have the booklet with us, all his details you can find in that place. He is a pastor, he is a father of 2 beautiful daughters and a handsome son. And before he speaks, when we talk of capacity building, that's why I said the topics we've been considering, they've been very, very progressive. When we talk of MSMEs, the first thing that comes to mind is funds, capital, but there's so many things that goes with MSMEs, and is going to talk to us about them. So, beautiful women of this Cowsol conference, permit me to hand over the microphone to our facilitator. He will tell us all about capacity building for MSMEs. Thank you so much.
Well, I almost want to say praise the Lord. Good morning. And I guess I take that all protocols have been observed. I'll just go straight into the paper. But I have a confession to make. When I got the invitation to come and speak, you know, I looked at the acronym Cowsol. I thought, what's this about? Who are these people? And but as I thought deeper about it and finally got here today, I said, this is a serious business. So I'm really glad. And this morning we learned about amala, waist, shoes, makeup, all compressed into such a short time. So I want to congratulate the organizers and Her Excellency and greet all the other excellencies for this wonderful program. And there are a few keywords I just want us to think about. You know, first is, you know, capacity building. And I'd like you to think about capacity in terms of a vessel. So a bottle or a glass or a bucket, anything like that that can take in some kind of quantities, either liquid or solid content. And capacity is the maximum amount that something can contain. Is the amount that something can produce. And the ability or power to do or understand something. And although the topic is capacity building for micro, small, and medium enterprises, I like us to think about it in a broader sense. Because we are all enterprises as individuals in our families, and one way or the other, you are an enterprise. So if you're a working mom, you are an enterprise. If you are a stay-at-home mom, you are an even bigger enterprise. So capacity in that regard should help us think about how do we increase what an individual contains? How do we increase what an individual can produce? And your theme is she creates, she transforms. How do you improve, increase what you can create? Capacity is also about increasing the ability to do something. And you heard from the shoemaker that she kept researching. She started with some ugly shoes, and she was going in to discuss with shoemakers and learn more to increase her ability to make shoes. That's capacity. So there are three things connected with capacity that I want to share. First is what you know. What do you know? Second is what can you produce with the resources available to you. And thank God we've learned more about waste. I confess that I don't do any recycling. Everything goes into one bin, my house. But we'll learn and see how we can recycle. The third thing is what you or your business, and remember we're talking about business in a broader sense, us as enterprises. So whether you are directly in business or indirectly, it's applicable to you. And that leads us to three things with the acronym KPA: knowledge, productivity, and activity. Your KPA: knowledge, productivity, and activity. Knowledge. When you stop to acquire knowledge, it's like you have a disease. And it doesn't matter how old you are. I'm inspired by a story I read recently of an 83-year-old grandma who went to complete her PhD. Somewhere along the line, she fell sick. She couldn't do it again, and then she recovered from the sickness and still went to complete the PhD, 83 years old. And I know in our own environment, if you are 83 and you suggest you want to go and do a PhD, you say, mama, is it now? You didn't do it since. But it's about knowledge, learning. Do we read books? Are you reading to learn more about whatever it is you're doing? I found out that Bill Gates, who's one of the world's richest men, or the richest, reads 50 books in a year. 50 books. That's an average of 1 book a month. But some people even do better. How many are we reading? Or do we close after we finish school? We have to read to acquire knowledge. You can also get some mentoring. So you have here today, you had here today some great mentors. So you want to learn how to make shoes, you go and look for Mona Lisa or Mona Matthews, and then you go enter the market, discuss with shoemakers, and get some mentoring. You can learn by shadowing. You can increase your knowledge by shadowing. That's just watching people, seeing how they do things, asking a few questions, and finding out how they do what they do and how you can improve what you do. You can also learn from experience, your personal experience, and there's so many narratives from the last session that tell us that indeed you can learn from experience. Both Mona Matthews and the waste recycling lady, all of them, they had stories about how they learned from experience. So we also have to learn from experience. So that's the K, the knowledge. So the P of the KPA is productivity. And that's really about what you deliver with the resources that are available to you. What are the resources? Your time. Think about Mona Matthews. So she has to combine, she says she's something like a superwoman. She's combining so many things into her time. And many of us make one big excuse, which is not often as valid as we think it is. I don't have time. I don't have time. I don't have time. And if you break your 24 hours and analyze it properly, you might find that social media, 4 hours. gist, 2 hours. You know, and when you classify all those things in terms of importance, you might just find that your day is filled with a lot of low priority items. Your money, managing your money, producing more from the little that you have. And I have to go back to the older days. My mom had 6 of us, and so she had to deal with 5 boys. And my dad said he was tired at 3, but my mom continued. You know, it's the women that control this thing. Any number of babies the woman wants to have, that's what she will have. And then she eventually had a girl with the 6th attempt. So you're having to deal with 5 boys and 1 girl who is really more like a boy now, because she too is dealing with 5 boys. And managing whatever it is you have, squeezing every possible thing out of 1 naira. And mothers of those days, they knew how to manage. So a pot of soup will go a long way. You know, they will serve it in such a way that the boys will be satisfied, but the soup will not finish. Your relationship would have piled up. Wasted talents, wasted abilities, wasted time. So if we're going to be having recycling bins, you know, okay, wasted time, put it here. Wasted abilities, put it here. Wasted talents, put it here. Wasted relationships, put it here. You will see that our bins might be very, very full at the end of time. So I want to encourage you to make sure that your waste bins, the waste bins of your life, are not too full. Just have only small waste. Let everything be recycled and used productively. And then the A of the KPA that I spoke about is activity. And your activity is primed by your knowledge and your skills. You know, some people want to go into a business, they want to start something, they don't know anything about it. And they don't seek to know. They just say, I've heard people are doing makeup. I want to do makeup. Okay, just get brush, pencil, eye pencil. It's not like that. It's not like that. Some people hear that and say, hey, shoe, okay, I'll be a shoemaker tomorrow. No, it doesn't work like that. Your action, what are you doing? What is it that your life is about? If they wanted to summarize your life into 2 or 3 words, what would it be? Would it be something you are proud of? Would it be something valuable? Or would it be something you wouldn't even want other people to hear about? What actions are you taking? Activity should also be about getting things done. And no better examples than the stories we've heard. They wanted something. They thought, oh, this is a good idea. Make up, waste. They proceeded to do it. So that activity is not the activity in our brains. And I know I have a lot of activity in my brain that has not translated to action. And most of us do, I'm sure. You know, that dream, that thing you're thinking about, that thing you've been wanting to do. Some people even discouraged you along the way, but the dream has refused to die. You need to pick it up and drive with some action. And if you think about an enterprise, a business or whatever it is that you're doing, you would realize that everything begins small. Everything in this life. Don't mind the stories they tell you, yeah, it's a big business. Everything begins small. Everything in life begins small. So the big business that you see today began with a small idea in somebody's brain. So Tara, she started going to do makeup one by one in people's homes, and then she started one shop. And I would say, Tara makeup, she's very big in makeup. No, she started small. Started small. Mona Matthew started with one ugly shoe. She proudly wore the ugly shoe. Received some abuse for the shoe, but continued. One pair of shoes. Now she's making many more and trying to even manage her capacity. So I want to encourage us on the basis of this point about activity to start small. Start small. That little thing you want to do, just start. Start small. Don't try to start big. You probably fall down on the way. That's the reality. Just start small. Bit by bit. One step at a time. Like a child who's trying to walk. You know, when they try to take steps that are too big, what happens? You land. You fall. So in closing this my short talk, and I think I'm way ahead of time. I should give us time for questions. I want to say that capacity building in whatever form, whether it's for business, in your personal life, in your professional life, in your office, in your family, in your workplace, whatever it is you're doing, involves deliberate desire and action. Desire, that means I want to do this thing. But desire is not enough. How many of us have desire? We all have desires. Things we want to do. Things we've been wanting to do. I have things on my plate I've been wanting to do for 10 years. Some of us 15 years. I've been thinking about this thing. Then when someone else comes to start the thing, say, I was thinking about it. You didn't lack desire. What you lacked was action. So you had the desire, but you didn't have the action. So whichever way you want to build capacity, you must have first what? Desire, and then what? Action. Action. There's no shortage of desire in the world. No shortage. All of us want to be big businessmen and women, don't we? Yes. Everybody would like to be Bill Gates, be an entrepreneur, be Tara, have retail shops all over the world. That's just desire. You need to move it to action. And it is individual action that translates to personal and business benefit. businesses don't grow on their own. They don't just show up from heaven. They don't just drop like rain. No. It is individuals that think about them, think about an idea, have the desire to translate that idea to some action. And then people start to benefit. So someone woke up one day and said, I can't find shoes to buy that fit me. The ones that I see that fit me are very ugly. So I'm going to make them myself. I did. Then she moved it to action. And now many more women can go and buy shoes that fit them and are custom made. So I close with the 3 main points that I've shared with you. First, that you must have knowledge. Knowledge is part of capacity building. So you don't want to be an olodo or an empty vessel. All right? You need to have some knowledge to enlarge your capacity. And I said, you need to be able to produce something with what you have. Those wasted talents, that potential in you, the ideas, the thoughts you've had, the things you've been wanting to do, you need to be able to produce something with it. And finally, you can't produce anything without some level of activity. So you need to move from just thinking about something to doing something. Thank you very much.
I would like to thank the organizers of this event for inviting me to speak on something that I'm very passionate about. Women-owned SMEs, MSMEs, women-led MSMEs, women in business, women as employers, women as employees, women in the community as community leaders, women in government. Just let us celebrate women. A lot has been said already, either by way of the blazers, the trailblazers that spoke earlier on today. Also on capacity building, a lot has been said already. And in fact, about half of what I wanted to say has been said or presented in one form or the other. But I'll try to make this, I'll try to speed through some parts of this so that I can really focus on financing options for MSMEs. Business needs money to start. It needs money to grow. It needs money to thrive. Anywhere you go in the world, when you look at the top 3 challenges or barriers that small businesses face, capital, money, financing is always part of it. It's always part of it. So I hope that by the time we finish this session, we'll be able to see that there are options for financing. There are things to do before you can get the financing. And so we'll talk about that. So I'm going to be talking through some slides. I hope they'll show the slides as I speak. But even if they don't, I'll just talk through it and hopefully we'll still be able to get the message across. So I will not waste too much time. Usually we like to start with what's the landscape in Nigeria? What are the barriers that women face as they try to access finance? How do we break those barriers? And then we'll talk about some of the options. And then since I have the floor, I will present Bank of Industry, say some of the things we have been doing,
and try to also reference real examples. Because a lot of times we talk and people think, can they really do it? Do they really do it? At Bank of Industry, we do it, and we'll show some examples of what we've done. So this is just the landscape. You know, we know the size of the Nigerian market. Lagos State is the biggest, if you take it as a cluster in Nigeria. So Lagos State does have everything going for it. 60% of women that own 60% of MSMEs are owned by women. And so that's a lot. You cannot ignore it. But the problem is that women do have that challenge. It's not because they're women, but sometimes women find it more difficult to access finance. So that is a problem, and that has to be dealt with. I'll quickly go on to the next slide, which talks about what are some of the barriers that women do face. And it's good for us to mention them. I'm sure as I go through them, a lot of us will identify with it in one way or the other, either with one of the barriers or with several of the barriers. So let's take the first one, perception of borrowing among women. Women sometimes are scared to take a facility. They're scared to take a loan. Sometimes they say, when we get to the bank, what do we say? Sometimes because of the approach or the reception they get, it puts them off. But women tend to cower in, and they are just averse to even taking a loan in the first place. But I dare say that if you want to run a business, you must be ready to take debt. You must be ready to take a loan. And you must be ready to put in all the work that you have to put in to service that loan, because it doesn't come free. Women also do not have the information that they need. The earlier speaker talked about, really today, you should have all the information you need. Either by going on the internet, by going through Google, through Bing, through various resource websites. Today, even on your telephone, most of us do have smartphones. You can get information, so information should not be a barrier. What are the other barriers that women face? Cultural barriers. Nigeria is no exception. Women do face cultural barriers all across the world. There are biases to women owning a business. In some cultures, women are not expected to leave the house. In some cultures, women are not even expected to be seen, not to talk of being heard. So cultural barriers are real. We already talked about information, business capabilities. So the speaker before this plenary session talked about capacity building. He talked about knowledge. If you don't have knowledge, your business will suffer. So technical knowledge, it's not good enough to just have a dream. That's where it starts. But a dream is not a business. There has to be action. And I remember he talked about action as well. But then there are technicalities to business. How do I keep my records? How do I separate my business money from my own personal money? How do I ensure that what I'm doing is making a profit? And it's not just that I'm seeing cash, because sometimes we mistake seeing cash to making money. So how do we understand this basic information on how to run a business? Also, how do you prepare? How do you prepare? So you have an idea, but nobody is going to fund an idea. I'm sure as we're all here, we have so many ideas running through our heads. But the truth is that an idea does not always translate into a money-making business. And that's where some of us get it wrong. And then we get upset with the bank, we get upset with maybe our uncles, our family, when we ask them, invest in us. And they just say, oh, that sounds really good, that sounds really good. And when you finish, they just say, okay, let's talk later. The truth is that we cannot put money in ideas. You must be able to show how money will come at the end of it. So you must have a plan. Even if it's in your head, it must be bankable. It must be bankable. I dare say that even if you were going to friends and family to invest in your business, if it's not clear how you make money I'm not sure they will help you unless they just want to dash you some money. So we have to learn how to make our businesses or our ideas, turn them into bankable applications. Another thing is security. That's the part that nobody likes to talk about, because as you know, it's all over as well. It's something that is a problem all over the world. People don't want to give collateral. So when you go to a bank and you say, oh, I have a plan, and the bank likes your plan, so they like it, they think this is something we can fund. But then they also have to protect themselves, and they say we need to have collateral. And this is where a lot of things break down. But I think we must think about collateral. Today, there are different ways and different options for collateral. And I think that's another discussion. But we must understand that security is also something we have to think about when we think about our business. So those are just some of the challenges that women face. And there's so many others. When I was thinking about this presentation, I now try to reflect. And the next slide, I said, the question I pose is that, are women sometimes their own enemies? Are we our own enemies? And what do I mean by that? In the middle, I have some quotes, and I say, I'm running a small business. I'm running this business from home, and I'm okay for it. So that means that sometimes women are scared to grow. We're scared to take advantage of the opportunities. One of the speakers, the Amala business, they started small, and then they started going into different locations. They were asked to come to the United States of America, and they took it on. They did not say, oh, no, we're just a local business. We can't go to America. So we must not be scared to grow where there are growth opportunities. We must not underestimate what we can do. There's been a lot of talk this morning that said you can start small, but there's room for growth. There's another one that says that women do not support one another. Well, what do we mean by this? Women do not network. Men find it easy to cluster together. They do things together either by way of, joining like a sports club or what have you. Men always pull each other along. Women sometimes are tight with networking. Women are like, oh, I don't have time, or, I don't want this person to grow more than me, or they're not willing or willing to share their knowledge. So women have to network. It is important that women support one another. I've heard of successful women-led businesses that when they started, none of their female friends supported them. They went to banks, they spoke to the women, they shared their ideas. And this is a true story. I don't want to mention the business. We all know the business. And she always says her story that no woman opened the door for her. It was until some of her husband's friends or some male friends that she had now said, come, bring your plan. Let us look at this thing. And her first seed investment came from a bank that was led by a man. So women, we have to support one another. Some other women talk about being overwhelmed. Multitasking was something that has been said today. Someone asked, how do you manage your work, your business, your personal commitments, your children? And that is what women are expected to do. Women are, I believe, created to multitask, and we are very good at multitasking. But we must not get overwhelmed. The speaker earlier on, the lady with the shoe business, she said, get help. Get help when you need to get help. So as women, we must understand that we have to multitask, and our businesses just have to take one compartment as well. Women lack confidence in themselves. Well, some do, some don't. But the truth is that women, we need to step out. I'm sure some of us that read a lot might have heard of the book Lean In. I think it's Lean In, yes. And it says that one of the things it talks about is that women always want to be at the back, Last week I was introducing a colleague of mine, or a woman, a very accomplished woman. And I said, oh, meet so and so. She has done this, she runs this business, she's very successful. And the first thing she said was, no. Don't say that. And I said, look, if you're successful, you need to talk about it because you are going to encourage other people and pull other people along. So women, we have to stop being our own enemies. We need to network, we need to be confident, we need to step up. We need to be in front. We should not always be at the back. We don't have to hide our successes. So women, it's time to step up. A few pointers on what do we need to do? How do we leap from good to great? So I've already mentioned some of it. You have to have a clear vision and a clear direction for your business. You cannot have a mixed up, maybe I'll do this, maybe I'll do that. That does not help a business. You have to be very clear that this is what I want to do, this is the product I want to offer, these are the people that will buy it, and this is how I'll get it to them. This is the service I want to offer, and this is the value it brings to the people, and this is how I'll get it to them. You must be willing to invest. Businesses do not start from charity. You must be willing to invest yourself. If you have savings, you must be willing to invest. If you cannot invest your savings in your business, I don't think you'll get anybody to support you. If you have capital you can bring into a business and you are reluctant to bring it to the business, I don't think you'll get help. I don't think any financing option would really be available to you. You must also understand what the options are for funding your business. You must be willing to dream big, and that's what I said earlier on. You must be bold, you must dream big, don't underestimate yourself, and most of all, you must network. So, I know we're talking about financing options for women, but I need to set the stage that it does happen. One of the things that we hear a lot is that, oh, I want to do this, there's no one to help me, no one can help me, and it's always sort of sad and bad news. But the truth is that some women have blazed the trail, and while I don't want to specifically just pick people, we have a lot of women that have blazed the trails. All the speakers that spoke earlier on today were a few of many that have blazed the trail, and we must celebrate our women.
What I'm going to do is just to share my story and how I have gotten to where I am today. Still not at the end of it, but I would relate it to funding as well. I used to be in banking, and I was in banking for 12 years. I left banking not knowing what to do. And I left banking because I wanted to spend more time with my babies and to bring up my babies, closely enough, because the timing was very, very not convenient for me. So it's funny that we have Mrs. Ariola Koladaisi here. She's a director at LIRS, and we were in banking together. And I remember when I left, she came to my house and she said, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I don't know." So no more salaries, yes. The cars, no. All the, benefits that come with working in a corporate structure, I didn't have it. What was important to me was I wanted to spend time with my babies. But I knew that I was a woman that definitely loved to be challenged. And I thought, okay, I would go out and get a job that is lenient on my time so that I can spend more time with my family. And in 3 months, I was at home. I enjoyed it very much. I didn't have the benefits that went with working in a bank. I didn't have a driver, so I had to drive myself around, but it was fun. And all of a sudden, an idea came to me. I didn't plan to be an entrepreneur, But what I know is that whatever I do, I want to do well. And so an idea came to me to start up my first company, and that takes us to the entrepreneurial journey. To start up the first company. And I started that company from my guest room in my house. And when I started, I had no funds. And at that time, because we're very lucky, at that time we didn't have Mrs. Tonya Adeniji and Bank of Industry having funds for MSMEs. And so at that time, I had to take advantage of my informal sector. So I went to a family member and I said, I've got this lovely idea to set up a biometric technology company. And that company is called Interface Technologies. I just need some money because there's a conference in Washington that I need to go for. I want to learn about it very well and see, what I can do with it. And what struck me was that I didn't have to tell him too many stories. He just believed in me. Now, what is the lesson there? The lesson there is wherever you are, apply personal discipline. Because you never know who is watching you. Everybody has always known me to be a very focused person, a hard worker. And so he looked at me and believed in me. And at that time, I think it was about 100,000 naira or 200,000 naira. I can't remember what it was then. And I went away and I came back with a representative from a US company to represent them for the entire Africa. And I thought, wow, how do I start? I remember that in my guest room, I will have my baby in one arm, and with the other arm, I am connecting cables because it was an engineering company. And I learned how to install access control systems, CCTVs. And to God be the glory, I got my first job. And I got an engineer to help me with it. We were climbing ladders to install the CCTV, to install the biometric device. And we did it so well that every bank that came into that office saw it and said, who did this for you? I want it. Who did this for you? I want it. I did not have to borrow money after that time. Jobs just kept rolling in. And because of what I was doing, the banks would pay me in advance, or my customers would pay me in advance before I do the installation. And every time we do the installation, we made an impression. Now, this company, if we look at screen, is Interface Technologies. This company is 19-year-old today. Now, the company is still running, and is run by a general manager, and she's also a woman. And she's been running it for the past 10 years. After 9 years of starting my first company, I got another idea. I saw an opportunity. Nigeria was a cash-based economy. And so I thought we ought to have a smart card manufacturing plant here. If you know, some of us have MasterCards, we have Visa cards, we have Verve cards, all right? So I thought that, all these cards are being imported. Why can't we have a smart card manufacturing plant in Nigeria? And so this time around, I said to myself, I had a dream. I was bold enough to have that dream. When I looked around Africa, there wasn't a smart card manufacturing plant. So I had no company to benchmark. It did not exist in the entire Africa. Where you had smart card manufacturing plants were outside the continent. And it then means that we have to be certified by MasterCard. We have to be certified by Visa. At the time I had the dream, Nigeria was known for, as we know, 419, fraud, and so on. Everybody told me that I was dreaming. It is not possible. Now, what is the lesson again? Surround yourself with positive people. Surround yourself with people that would encourage you. And I dare to dream big, as Mrs. Adeniji has said, dare to dream big. You know, when I hear that 60% of enterprises in MSMEs or SMEs are women, I have mixed feelings. It's good, but at the same time, it breaks my heart because I know that there is so much women can do. Why must we be in MSME level? Why must we be at the SME level? Why can't we go to the large corporation level and break that glass ceiling? Why can't we believe in ourselves and be confident that we can do it and we can still maintain a good home? We can still take care of our family. I have a devoted husband, a supportive husband, but he knows that when it comes to business, my family comes first. Now, I had this dream. What was the dream? I wanted to set up a smart card manufacturing plant. And what does that mean? I'll be making that plastic locally. I'll be doing security printing, and I'll be fulfilling. Now, this dream was as big as this factory was able to make passports. This factory is able to make national ID cards, voters card, driver's license. This factory is able to make SIM cards for your telephones. This factory is able to make financial cards, MasterCard, Visa card, Verve card. This is a dream that started from the home. And with business, there is growth. I started little. If we show the slide with the babies, I started little. I had an idea. I did my research in 2005. Then I started with the end in mind. I did not start big. I went stage by stage. And by the time I started this, because of the success of my first company, the banks were ready to give me the loan. Women, personal discipline is required. From the first company, I saved some money. I put it in the second company. People, as I said, are watching you. It was easy for me to attract investors, and that was how we were able to raise the funds for the factory. We got the first machine. 2006, we set up. We did it. It was successful. The banks looked at us again and said, we believe in you, we'll give you more. We backward integrated again. It was successful. And they said, we'll give you more. And it went all the way until we got to the end of the dream. Today, we have now realized, if we show the map of Africa, we have now realized what we set up from the beginning.
Permit me to please crave your indulgence, everyone to stand to our feet for a moment. Because they say sitting is the new smoking. Since I came here, we've been sitting down. And long sitting has the same effect on our health as smoking. Even if you don't smoke tobacco, and you sit for 6 hours without standing, you get the same dangerous effect as if you were a smoker. So stretch your hand, please, and stretch your legs, and twist a little bit, and a little bit. My head, my shoulder, my knees, my toes. My head, my shoulders, my knees, my toes. My head, my shoulders, my knees, my toes. Pardon, that is a pastor standing here. You may be seated, please. Once again, I appreciate this opportunity to share a few thoughts with us. I have a very long presentation that I must crash into 30 minutes. So I will skip some of, it's actually a resource for everyday life. Health is not an objective in itself. Health in itself should be considered as a resource, the same way we consider money as a resource, the same way we consider the capital we use to start our businesses and enterprises. That is the same way we should view our health, as part of the capital, part of the resource that we need to make our visions in life happen. So health is a positive concept emphasizing social and personal resources as well as physical capacities. That was the little adjustment that the WHO made to the definition of health. So the next necessary question is, who is a healthy person? If we say someone is healthy, what are the features, what are the characteristics of a healthy person? And here, I have about 9 suggestions, quickly. The first is the absence of disease. A healthy person possesses physical capacity, the ability to do work, the ability to be productive, the absence of debilitating disease in that person's body. Secondly, a healthy person possesses a healthy immunity that is able to protect the individual from minor illnesses for long. For example, as a personal experience, I am AA, and they say AA individuals are malaria prone. They develop malaria very frequently, and so that was my lot. I developed malaria very constantly, very regularly, almost once in a quarter. And that would knock me down and go off work for 3, 4, 5 days until I began to learn the secrets that I'm about to share with you. And today I've gone on for 12 years without malaria. I give the credit to God on the one hand, and on the other hand, to the understanding that I now have in how to live my life to make my body able to stay without minor illnesses for long. That's another sign of a healthy person. Another sign of a healthy person is the ability to bounce back readily from minor illnesses. Once in a while, we get knocked down. Malaria, typhoid, minor infections, and things like that. A healthy person should be able to bounce back in a few days when such minor illnesses crop up. But somebody with a compromised health, a compromised immunity, minor diseases usually degenerate further down into more chronic disorders. A healthy person also has mental soundness. He has a sound mind to be able to think straight. A healthy person is psychologically and emotionally balanced. He's able to relate socially. A healthy person is functional and productive. That person can contribute to the growth and development of society. A healthy person can cope with life challenges and threats because there are many of them all around us. And it takes a healthy frame of body and mind to be able to stand in spite of the threats and in spite of the challenges that we are confronted with on a fairly regular basis. And a healthy person is one who is likely going to reach his longevity potential, the ability to live out his or her full lifespan without being cut short prematurely, barring crashes and accidents and disasters that can claim life prematurely. And I say it that a healthy woman is able to give her best both to her family and society, and not just what is left of her. Now, science says that we have the genetic potential to live for 125 years. And as a theologian, I also know that the Bible says we have in this dispensation a genetic potential to live for 120 years. So the Bible and science quite agree on that. But potential is one thing, reality is another thing. Even though we can potentially live for 120 years, how many people are actually living up to 120 years? The reality is that many people die before they reach 80. And it's a huge national and personal waste to die during one's prime. Because life can actually be structured into 3 phases. Phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Phase 1 is our learning years. And phase 2 is our earning years. And phase 3 is our yearning years. We are supposed to learn and mature and come to a point in life where we become doyens, where we have so much to bring to the table. And those years are supposed to be our best years. And that frame of time is usually supposed to be from about age 40 to 80. That's when we should be doing our best work. Because now we are well cooked. Now we are well experienced. We are well grounded. And we have so much to offer. But unfortunately, that is the very time, the very season of life that many people are threatened. Now, all over the globe, the challenge is the same. It's worse in some parts of the world than other parts. For example, the healthiest nation on earth today is adjudged to be Japan. Life expectancy there is put at 83.7 years, average for the country. Switzerland and San Marino comes second with 83.1 years as their national average. Now in Africa, the healthiest nation in Africa is adjudged to be Tunisia, and they have a national average life expectancy of 76.1 years. Libya comes second at 75.3. Sierra Leone is put as the lowest in the world at 46 years national life expectancy average. That is quite explicable. They just had a terrible Ebola scourge in recent years, and that really affected their national average. The interesting thing is that there is no country in sub-Saharan Africa whose life expectancy is up to the world average. World average is put at 71 years life expectancy. And the highest country in sub-Saharan Africa with the best life expectancy is put at 68, which is below world average. Which means that in this part of the world, there is much we still need to do to improve our longevity, to improve our health potential, and to help us to live long enough to be able to deliver our dreams and our visions. Nigeria is ranked the 8th most populous nation in the world, but when it comes to life expectancy, we are number 183. In terms of how much of our GDP we spend on health in Nigeria, we rank as number 127. In terms of physician density, in other words, how many doctors per 1,000 people in the population, Nigeria ranks 130. We have 1 doctor per 2,500 people. That is the ratio we have. In terms of hospital bed density, there is 1 bed available, 1 hospital bed available for 2,000 Nigerians. And we rank as number 176 in the world. And if you look at our national statistics, we find that we are heavy in the kindergarten group, and we are very light in the senior citizens group. Only approximately 3% of Nigerians exceed 65 years and above. 3%. Only 7% mark their 55th birthday before they die in Nigeria. 62.27% of Nigerians are below 25. And only 34.6% of Nigerians are in the working class, working to feed 100% of the country. Our national life expectancy is placed at an average of 52.4 right now, and we are 212th position out of 223 countries. Now let me jump from all those statistics and go on to some salient points. Now let's look at the percentage of our GDP that we spend on health in Nigeria. Nigeria spends less than 4% of her GDP on health. Between 2011 and 2014, according to the World Bank record, Nigeria spends between 3.3 and 3.7% of our GDP on health. Whereas Japan, the healthiest nation in the world, spends approximately 10% of our GDP on health. America even spends 17% of our GDP on health. Tunisia, the healthiest nation in Africa, spends approximately 7% of our GDP on health. Switzerland, the second most healthiest nation in the world, spends approximately 11% of our GDP on health. Now the issue is that for us to improve on our health, we actually need to have all hands on deck. And that is the bottom line. Government is doing what they can do, but they have to do more. But much more importantly, each one of us individually need to take the bull by the horn and do what we have to do to improve our health. And that's why I want to quickly run us to the 10 healthy living tips that I want to give before I take my seat. Now, many people trace their health issues to heredity, diabetes, hypertension, arthritis, and what have you. They claim that it runs in their family, and because of that, they are not to blame. They don't have anything to do. I mean, they can't do anything about it. But those who have studied genetics have come to let us realize that genetics is only a loaded gun. It is our diet and lifestyle that actually pull the trigger. I may have a genetic predisposition for a disease. If I manage my diet and my lifestyle appropriately, I can keep those genes dormant for as long as possible. It is not every gene that automatically expresses in our body. There are triggers that pull those genes on. And those triggers are what we need to watch out for. Unhealthy diet and lifestyle account for more than 80% of heart disease, more than 90% of type 2 diabetes, and more than 70% of stroke and colon cancer. Now, the things that cause diseases in human life that are beyond human control constitute only 30% of the risk factors. But the things that are absolutely under human control are a whopping 70%. Which means if you and I will take charge of our diets, our lifestyle, we can actually prevent up to 70% of the diseases that afflict humanity. And so let me present to you very quickly 10 simple tips that we take home from here today as part of our disease prevention strategy to improve longevity. The first healthy living tip that I want to leave with you is that we all need to avoid destructive habits and high-risk behavior. If we can just address this one point, we can as well prevent up to 50% of the diseases that afflict humanity. High-risk behavior will include tobacco, hard drugs, alcoholism, sexual promiscuity, self-medication, and so on and so forth. Things as innocent as late night eating is a high-risk behavior. Eating dinner at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. is a high-risk behavior as far as our health is concerned. The second healthy living tip I want to leave with you is to learn the skills to eat nutritiously. When it comes to our food, taste is not primary. Taste is important, but taste is not primary. Nutritional value of the food we eat is primary. And to eat nutritiously, there are three major components. The first one is to eat seasonally. What I mean by that is this. Every fruit that comes out in every season carries the nutritional element to vaccinate our body against the peculiar diseases of that season, and avoiding things that can compromise our health, such as processed food, junk food, fried food, sugar, and genetically modified organisms.
I think Reverend Anthony deserves another round of applause. He has made us to appreciate that our kitchens can actually be the best hospital in the world if only we can learn from the knowledge that he has given us on how to eat nutritiously and healthfully, then we can save hospital visits for not just us, our spouses, and other members of our family. And I can tell you that this is a living truth. The more you eat nutritiously, the more you live healthfully, the more you take healthful decisions and follow through on those 10 healthy tips he has given us, the less and fewer hospital visits we will make. And I trust us, Queens, that when we go back home, we will not only use our creative abilities, but we will also incubate all these ideas and knowledge, and we will indeed transform the health of our family and inadvertently the health of the nation. Ìtẹ̀síwájú Èkó, òun ló jẹ wá lógún. Thank you very much, and good afternoon, everyone. And please let us appreciate Reverend Anthony once again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you very much, sir. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of the 7th plenary for today.